Happiness means different things to different people. There are many definitions of happiness. On this year World Congress of Positive Psychology, it was really interesting to see how Dr. Barbara Fredrickson, and I discussed this briefly with Barbara, how she talks what they do in her lab to study happiness, and yet none of us in the real world think of happiness that way. Let me explain. Most of us don't go out and perform, let's say, an act of unexpected kindness, doing something nice for others, thinking that will make us happy. We don't go to nature thinking that will make us happy. We are not grateful because we want to be happy. And yet, happiness is a byproduct of all these activities I mentioned. But when they research it, they actually take each one of these activities, and many others of course, to see if in fact they will make us happy. So then what is happiness? Happiness is an overall experience of pleasure and meaning. It is important to get this definition, and I will tell you why. Often we see happiness mostly as pleasure. And yes, certainly pleasant moments make us happy. And many pleasant moments in our life makes our life happier. We can certainly plan for pleasant moments and teach people how to get even more of it. But the science of positive psychology does not stop here. Doesn't stop with just pleasant moments. One of the reasons is that we get used to pleasant moments. So to give an example, 25 years ago, I would download something from the internet, and some of us older know how would that work. So back then, as I recall, the company was called CompuServe here in the United States, and some of you may remember that. So I would start downloading before I went to sleep, hit download, and it would do something all night, and I was so happy, like if I wake up in the morning and see that the file actually downloaded on my PC. And back then, maybe there was, 600 kilobytes, less than 1 megabyte, whatever that means, hundreds, thousands times less than what we do now like this. I was happy because often the download would fail, and sometimes during the night, and I wouldn't get the file, and this just happened so many times. Then I got used to it. Now I got used to getting file like this, and if I don't, I get upset. You see, pleasure is habitual. And that's the one problem, if we can call it problem, with pleasure. So today, if the file doesn't download immediately, what happens? We get upset. We are used to the pleasure to get the file like this, and if it takes longer, we get opposite of pleasure. We encounter unpleasant moments. I bet the same applies to some very rich people. They get used to having everything they want, and it is not pleasure anymore. They got used to it. So, in addition to pleasure, meaning in life, in what we do, meaning in what we do brings us happiness. We are the ones who create that meaning. It is not an outside factor. Again, going back at the World Congress of Positive Psychology, we watched the interview with Candace Billups. It was a part of the research project. Candace is a custodian and works in a cancer center and she found a true meaning and a calling in what she does for a living. She sees herself as a part of helping patients get better in any way she can. So you see, she connected with true meaning of helping patients get better by cleaning the restrooms, by moving the patients around. Anything she can do to help patients get better. So she doesn't see herself as custodian. She's a part of a solution at this cancer center. And that is why she's happy. She's a people person and uses that character strength at work that helps others as well as herself. I attached the video to this exercise so you can see it for yourself. I highly recommend that you watch it when you get a chance. And the third is engagement or flow. Again, there is a lecture on flow, but basically when we are fully engaged in certain activity, the time just stops for us. We don't think of that activity until it's completed. I realized how I was actually fully engaged and in flow when I was preparing for this lecture. Why? Because I love teaching the subject. It has a meaning for me. And the meaning is I'm helping other people become even happier. And my lessons will be watched all over the world. And now I am bringing science of positive psychology that until recently was only available to top universities. Now I'm bringing it with this program. I'm bringing it to moms, dads, kids, grandparents, just regular people like myself. And I know that my work helps many become even happier. And that truly creates meaning for me. Now, with that said, can we actually become happier? So let's look at the research done by University of California professor Sonia Lubomirsky. Her research shows that 50% are our genes. So some of us are simply born happier, and fine to some of us will give that 50%. 10% are the life circumstances. So where we live, how we live, the way we grew up and so on. But that leaves what? That leaves 40% that is totally dependent on us. It is what we do on a daily basis. Now, this is what research shows, but I want to make one thing clear, and this is like for any research. For some people that have difficult life, so not enough food, no shelter, or simply very, very extremely difficult life circumstances, etc., it's more than 10%. We don't know. This is just an average, right? This is just an average based on research. So the genes count exactly for 50% for everyone? No, of course not. Again, it's an average. So please keep that in mind. And, anytime you see research numbers, always keep this in mind. However, overall, this applies to majority of us. So one thing that we know we can do is extend this 40%. So let's say if it's 40, we can extend it, we can stretch it. Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar just talked about at the conference about extending that 40%. So we can make it even higher because it is what we do on a daily basis that matters. It is what we do on a daily basis that can make us more or less happier, believe it or not. But we have to be cautious here. Tools that we are going to learn in this program, and many what we again call happiness interventions, what we call in positive psychology, we shouldn't see this as a goal. To do all these tools, so let's practice every single one, we can become happy. It's really not about pursuit of happiness. It is about happiness of pursuit. It's about a journey and not the end goal. Now, we could become happier if we apply some of the tools learned here and interventions from positive psychology, but happiness is a byproduct of these tools. Again, it's not the end goal. So please keep this in mind, because often we think of end goal, and we discussed that earlier. We think of end goal when I get this, when I buy this, when I get this diploma, often we think of end goal. It is really not. It is the journey that really makes us happier.